So, what is this? This would be
episode 5.
5. Alright, cool. Same difference. Season 2.
Yeah.
Episode 5. Take 1.
The way you kill mosquitoes. Welcome back to Same Difference Podcast. Cheers. Hi guys, I'm Dee.
I'm Skinny.
Welcome to another episode of Same Difference Podcast.
Yeah.
Where we talk about our same but different experiences.
Yeah.
In our lives. And so today we're going to talk about another same difference, which is our experience as women, and this is in recognition of International Women's Day, which was March 8th this past week. So happy International Women's Day.
Happy International
Did you do anything special for the day? No. Okay, neither did I. Just checking. But
I just led the day. I had a day.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean this year's theme was #break the bias, and I thought we would talk about a feel good sort of experience or experiences we've had where the bias has been broken for us as women, and so, or a continued fight to break the bias, right?
Continued fight, never ending fight, if you ask me. And I feel like we're just like etching slowly into the the negative, the worse. Like it's like we're heading into the depths of hell. We're circling the depths of hell rather than like ascending towards the heavens.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to tell you good stories, because I realize there might not be they're few and far between here.
Yeah.
By here I mean Kenya. But
especially
I can tell you
currently.
Yeah, especially currently with all you guys have seen the news. We'll probably address that in another episode, but the heaviness that this week has carried for women nationally has been a heaviness that unfortunately we're familiar with.
Constantly familiar
You see?
with, yeah.
And so if you don't know what we're talking about a lady who was assaulted because she had an accident with a boda rider.
Yeah.
And then now other riders saw that as a license to come and assault her in public, in full view of people, right? So that echoes when ladies were being stripped for how they were dressing, and that created the My Dress, My Choice movement and all of that stuff. So, I mean, it's been a heavy week for that reason, because you're constantly reminded of these things as a woman, that
how
you're
unsafe you are.
Yeah, like it's like you have no ownership of your own body. So anyway, I wanted to talk about instances where the bias has been broken for me, and instances where that bias being broken changed my life, right?
Right.
So one such example is back in Australia at my previous job. I had a male colleague who was very, very into... He was a feminist. Let me just call him that. He was a feminist through and through.
Yeah.
And he refused to... He went to the CEO of the company and basically said, I want a breakdown of how people are earning, male versus women, from the top all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
I want to break down because I want to see what the discrepancies are. And when he was given that breakdown, there was a clear discrepancy between what the male counterparts were earning compared to their female counterparts.
Right.
And he just sent nationwide communication and said he doesn't want to get a pay rise until his female colleagues are earning more or equal to him. And I found that so incredibly empowering, because I was like, if you can refuse more money so that I can be at par or higher than you, I don't know what other definition of a feminist there is. And it really, really touched me that it was a man advocating for us. It wasn't another woman. You know, of course, it's our fight as women. But unfortunately, it's like the race issue or the class issue. You need the privileged party to be an ally.
To be an ally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. It helps having allies.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
So,
I don't know. Like, I have so much
to
say about that.
Say. Fungua roho.
Okay. So, kudos to that guy. Right? Because it takes a lot to dismantle your own personal beliefs or understanding of things, you know, because sometimes it's not really a belief, it's just an understanding of, you know, like, you know, the way people say, like, this is how you play the game.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, your understanding is that, you know, sometimes niggas make more than women do. Sometimes merit is the thing that justifies why you make more or less than, you know, say, for example, somebody else.
Yeah.
But what is interesting for me about, like, this scenario is this guy's need to do this. Like, his overwhelming need to, like, go... like, stop what he's doing and go and, like, have that conversation and be like, okay, hey, I'd like a breakdown. You know, that is a great way of using your privilege. You know, it's like he understands, yes, he can say that. Out of everybody in the room, he's the one who can have that conversation.
Yeah.
And so his awareness...
And there'll not be negative repercussions.
Yes. Yeah, and, like, for him to use his privilege in that way, that's commendable.
Yeah.
You know, you have to give... pat you on the back, homie. You did a good thing. But it's also just like a double-edged sword in the sense that...
Oh, a bird just shit on me. Shit on me. These niggas try to shit on me. Hey. Oh, look, it better not have gone on my head.
It can't have.
Shit. Literally. Sorry,
or maybe
guys.
the tree is the one that shit on you.
No, this is actual shit from a living... Well, the tree's living too, but... Anyway, these are the dangers of shooting outside.
Yeah. But not the dangers.
At least it wasn't like a kinini.
The joys of shooting outside.
And apparently being shot on is a blessing. Anyway,
it is.
By a bird, not...
Whoa. Yeah. I don't understand where human shit is a divine thing.
R. Kelly might think otherwise.
No, he's a peer.
Yeah,
I don't know. We've taken a tangent.
Yo. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, for him to use his privilege in the right way, that is commendable. But I feel like it's a double-edged sword in the sense that, and maybe this is, for me especially, I grapple with what he stands to gain by equalizing the playing field.
He just wanted a fair playing field for people. He was tired of colleagues, female colleagues complaining about, why do I earn X amount less than you? And yet we do the same job. Like, he was just in a position where he was like, anyway, it's not right. And if you go and complain, you might not get the results as me who's saying, actually, pause on the pay rise until this colleague of mine who does the same job as me is at par with me, which only makes sense. But it only makes sense as well in the context where you freely discuss what you're earning.
Right.
That's the other thing you have to realize is that, so in the context of Australia, we probably knew what everyone was earning in the office Lucy, we knew.
It was transparent.
Yeah, it's something you talk about quite openly because it's. I mean, you're all negotiating pay rises. You're all negotiating. That's our job. Our job was to represent workers.
Yeah.
And so even us as employees, we're like, okay, even me, I'm earning this, and I want to earn this. How do I get there? You see? Yeah. It comes in the context of being very open with what you earn. There was no problem discussing salary. I knew what my colleagues earned. It was very.
That's okay. So. Because maybe I guess the system is not as free and as open here as it is in, say, Australia, right? So like here, just even on a cultural level, right?
We don't discuss money.
We're not open about money, right? So you could... Oh, don't die. You and your colleague doing the same job could not necessarily be earning the same amount of money.
And you'll never know.
And you will never... Well, this one time I found out that I was earning significantly more than the person who was in the same department doing the same job as me. And I'm like...
That's not fair. It ain't right.
Well, I was like, I don't know whether it's fair or not. Because then I'm like, if you look at our skill set and how we execute, it's very different, right? So I was more efficient at getting the job done, but she was a better person.
As in a better human being?
Yeah. So. Okay, it's like if me and a Care Bear went to it's like,
as in, I get it. She was maybe a very nice, likable person.
She was a very nice person.
But you see, you're not paid for your likability.
Exactly.
Or in some instances, maybe. But you're usually you're paid for the work you do.
Yeah, your output. Like, what you're able to achieve within the scope of your job, right? And so I'm very I fully understand that when it comes to like work. I don't pussyfoot around my work. So I'm not. Some people would look at me as not a likable person at work. However, I get the job done.
Like you
at work.
Okay, at work.
Right.
Ukiwa na sura ya kazi you're
yeah,
different.
Me when it's work time, we're working. I'll still.
So in that situation, would you go up to her and be like, "Yo"?
No, but I could understand why she's not making as much money. I fully understood why she wasn't making as much money as I was.
Which is she wasn't
really doing as much work as I was doing. Yes, we were doing the same job, but her output wasn't the same as my output. You get what I'm saying? So like productivity wise, the boss is looking at me and saying, on the day Jenny has an off versus when this person has an off, I'm like, my productivity is in the neg at that point. Like, we're not getting anything done. Yes, we are happy. Yes, we're feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
But when Jenny is off, this job is not getting done. Like, count that as a real day.
Okay.
And I could understand why I was making more money, because it's not just that I was putting in more, I was doing more work. I was more productive, and there were more results on my end than they were on her end. Yet we had the same job. We had the same title. Our expectations were the same. Like, what was expected of us rather was the same. Yeah. And so like, yeah.
So do you feel
for me, money is not, money is not the indicator of equity or equality at the office. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm just like, seeing how much people earn is an indicator of how they work. You know what I mean?
I don't think necessarily. You know why? Because you might earn way more than me simply because you're male, right? Not because you work way more than I do.
Right.
You see, not because your output is more than me. It's literally because when you enter a room and you're being interviewed or you're having your performance review, it just so happens that men tend to get more on the table than women. And then you see all these arguments about, well, a woman will leave the workforce to have babies, or, well, you know, women are more family oriented, or this and that. There's all these stereotypes about what a woman is, and that's why I resonated so much with the International Women's Day break the bias theme, because I was like, you know what, there's actually those gender roles that were assigned years and years ago don't necessarily work anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And even then, when they were being created, they weren't necessarily the most efficient way to like do things.
No, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, right, it's not like the shift from understanding that we are equal.
Yeah.
Right? That was not like at the evolution, like we went from Neanderthal to Homo sapien. Like that shift, that in paradigm is not that epic, right? And so for me, I'm just like, the investigation into how like productive a society can be, right? If you were to look at man versus woman, there's very little that differs in terms of productivity, in terms of like output. Like if you were to take two athletes, male and female, there's a high output depending on high input. You know what I mean? So if world class runner, both male and female are working at their most like highest, right? And it's the same thing for like on the lower end, right? If you don't put in the work, you don't, right? That for me is what I don't understand why it's taken us so long, like why we're in 2022 and saying break the bias. It's like, isn't that the most obvious thing, that we are equal in capacity? We may not be equal in terms of like certain aspects of biology, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to capacity, how well you can perform, how you can impact, those things, we are equal on those levels, you know? And it's, so for me, I'm just like, isn't it such an obvious, like...
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious to us who are on this end. But, you know, you look at the spectrum of the world leaders of I mean, CEOs and stuff like that. Most of the time, it's men, you see? And even in 2022, we're still grappling with this issue. And so, you know, for you, in terms of either your career or your life or whatever, I assume based on your sexuality alone, you face extreme bias.
Mad.
Is there situations where someone has come in and broken the bias, or you've come in and been like, yo, this is it?
Okay, so I don't know whether this counts, but I think this is like the most, because my industry, the industry that I'm in, is male dominated,
which is filmmaking, by the way.
As a filmmaker, I don't know whether, you know, skinny filmmaker. Yeah. Right?
If you don't know, now you know.
So the film industry is male dominated, even on an international like level. There's not that many people who can name directors, writers, and have that list be all women or majority women. It's very rare that you find, you know, like that conversation happening. So for me, that was that direct opposite like experience for me coming in. How the person that I shadowed and that mentored me at the beginning stages of my career were all women.
By choice? It was your
by
choice?
Happenstance.
Oh, okay, by happenstance. Okay.
It
just so happened when you were coming
by destiny.
Okay.
Actually, like,
that's lovely.
Yeah. So for me, the industry looked female.
Yeah.
First. It wasn't.
It looked like you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just a bunch of girls writing, a bunch of girls directing, a bunch of girls like producing. Like that was.
Yeah.
And you know.
Okay, so it wasn't much of like you have to now prove yourself and break ground.
No, you did.
Okay.
Oh, you did. Facts. But it was not. You were not proving how. You were proving your acumen, your skill. That's what you were proving.
Okay.
You were proving that you were a filmmaker, regardless of whether you're a woman
okay.
or a man.
Because someone has already stepped into that room in that capacity, so you don't have to do it.
So like now, so it's like, so for example, if you're called to a job, if you say you are a director, whether you're male, female, whether you're a chimp, whether you're a cat, whether you're, whatever, it doesn't matter. Can you do the job? And at the level that you were being asked to do that job, right? And so the space that I came into, like, filmmaking in, sex and gender was all put at, like, checked at the door. You're walking in to, like, an arena. We are
and what
making
can you do in this
cinema.
Arena? Okay.
Like, that's what we're doing. Like, it's not a question of, like, you got the biggest dick, or like you know how to bag, like, it's not about that.
Yeah,
it's about, can you actually do
it should be always about can you do the job. And how well can you do the job.
And so money, like how much you were getting paid was never an issue. It was always based on what you could do. So, like, say for example, like, you could ask, okay, so if I want a first AD, most times people would ask, like, okay, so what are you trying to do? So, like, they would have a documentary, so someone they could easily tell you, oh, if you want to do documentaries, this is the first AD to, like, go to. If you want to do music videos, this is the first AD you want to go to. Or if you're doing film, this is the, like, because those are different, mediums, you know what I mean? And so the acumen is different, and so nowadays it's just like, name somebody, or you know what, I'm gonna just take on the job of being first AD. You know what I mean? So, like, there's a diminishing of, I don't know, like, value. I don't know, but like, back in the day, it didn't matter what you were, like, male, female, or whatever, as long as you could, like, play the game, do the thing, And
does that still translate now, especially in your industry? Is it still a situation where it doesn't translate now?
It doesn't.
It's different.
Like, and shout out actually to women in film. There was a recent, well, depending on when this video drops, last week there was, or this week actually, like yesterday, I think, was Women in Film Awards.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Now we're starting to, like, notice and take note of
the
how many
contribution,
women, because it's no longer, like, our space is reserved to hair and makeup, or styling, or wardrobe, or
vocations that are considered
acting,
feminine,
or or just hard ass producer. It's not that. It's across the board. Now we're everywhere. We're first ADs, we're grips, we're lighting technicians, we're and having proven our worth. And so, like, shout out to that. And in our industry, which is very male dominated, but also
the wind. Beyonce wind has attacked us.
You're thinking Beyonce wind will haunt us. My industry is not only male dominated, but it's also very chauvinist. It's very misogynist, so it's good to see us, like,
move out of that
space and have the dominance, even in the glory of the current state of the industry, be heralded to women. It's great to see that. It's fantastic to see that. Especially for me, as someone who, that's how it started. That's how I started out my film career. To be around women. I went from Jerry Karago to Wanori Kahio. At some point, I had, like, I was working with Jennifer Gatero. Like, it's women, like, that have made, like, a lot of the TV culture that we have is led a lot, like, by women as Kenyans, but then, we don't particularly herald that. We don't say at that's, like, our industry was built on the backs of women. We don't say that. We don't talk about, like, how majority of the producers in our industry are women.
So that's something you reckon we should talk about more, because I'm not very conversant with the industry here in Kenya. In fact, I've never worked in Kenya. all I've heard is stories and borrowed stories from people to like kind of compare experiences. And you always hear this thing of, oh, you know, female bosses are tough, female bosses are hard to work with, female bosses this, female bosses that. So what is the issue? Men are earning more, female bosses are very difficult to work with. How do we break that barrier? How do we get past that barrier? Because and I've seen you mentor people in your industry.
Yeah.
If I'm mentoring someone in my industry, I'd be like, hey, here, let me give you the license to do the things I couldn't do because I did. So now that you know a couple things now, having been in the industry for a while. If I'm a rookie, I don't know as much as you do, right? So I would assume the way to break the bias would be to tell this person, listen, this is how you go about making more money in this industry. This is how you go about opening this particular door.
Right.
Yeah. But how do you do that when there's two inherent problems? Men are earning significantly more than their female counterparts, and people complaining, especially women complaining, that when they have female bosses, it's tough to, and this is generalization, of course.
Right.
It's tough to work with a female boss because it's always what the stories I always hear are very negative or very, you know, you just hear so much competition and so much cattiness. Yeah. Like what do you do?
That's such a like multi-pronged question. I'm like trying to wrap my head around like what to answer first. Okay. Okay. Women are hard to work with. Let's tackle that. No and yes. In the same way you could say everyone is hard to work with and no one is hard to work with. You know what I mean? Yes, in the sense that there's a chip on our shoulders. You know, when because it's not expected of us to be in a, you know, in a position of power and not a position of sexual power, say. You know what I mean? So like you actively know what it feels like to be female and in charge of. Men are inherently told they're in charge of everything.
So you're here as a female boss, you're fighting for your seat at the table. Yeah. You're fighting to justify why you belong at the table.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we have a chip on our shoulder. Like and I've experienced this. Like I am a very different person when I am when I'm like the lead versus when I am, say for example, when I'm director and when I'm first AD, right? I am two very different people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why and how?
Because like it's just that like inherent behavior towards hierarchy, right? Yeah. Like how you behave in a space of...
Okay. I see. So when you're the one running shit, you're obviously you're different because you're wearing a different hat. And you can say, do this, go there, do there. But if you're the one reporting to someone, you kind of have to like, okay, now.
Shrink yourself a little.
Okay,
right.
Okay.
So think about it as being a woman, and that's the chip, like wearing that chip on your shoulder as a woman, when it comes to like leading, it looks like you've taken a subordinate and put on the ordinate. I've never understood what. So the top is what? Know. Ordinate? Anyway, so you've taken the boss's skin and just put it on. So only you know underneath that you're a fraud. But everybody else outside sees you as a leader.
But you're not a fraud.
But you're not a fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
It feels so like is that when the imposter syndrome hit? Yeah.
That's when the imposter syndrome hits. Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, maybe this should be left to a man to do, because they can like, you feel like the rationale or like the rationalizing of like the situation of how maybe I'm not as good as John, right?
So maybe he should just run shit because okay, so you just put it in the too hard basket and you're like,
or you be like, fuck John, and then you're like, I'm gonna cut everybody down. I'm gonna be worse than John.
Yeah.
Fuck John. fuck everybody. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and like, that's the chip. It's like not knowing how to navigate the spectrum of how to be a woman in the workplace, how to be a leader, right? Because we've always ascribed that to men. Mm-hmm. We've always ascribed, like, even money is a male, it has a male energy to it. You know? And so, like, the bullishness of that is like, you know, only a man can talk about money. If a woman talks about it, oh my God,
it's immodest.
Oh. Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, that's why a woman can't go into the HR office or like the boss's office and be like, yo,
I need more money.
No, and also I want to know how much money everybody else is making.
Is earning,
So
I feel like if there's something that experience taught me, is to trust your source, but also know how to back up your source. So, for instance, I am your colleague, I earn more than you. I'm your colleague, I earn less than you. But we do the exact same jobs. There's no argument about who outputs more. The only difference is that our gender might be different.
Right.
Know your source in the sense that you can go into that office and say, hey, listen, Jenny and I both sweep the floor, Jenny and I both start the computer, Jenny and I both, you know, we both do the same thing day in, day out. There's no reason why I should earn less. But also that conversation would be impossible if I didn't know what Jenny earned. Yeah. It'd be impossible because what is my reference point?
Yeah.
You know, for what is fair and unfair. What's my reference point? Yeah. And so, I mean, if there's things that I would challenge people is, one, we need more open discussions about what people are making in the workplace, how you're earning, how your salary or bonus is structured, things like that, so that the people who are earning less, and not because they don't do a good job, it's simply because of their gender, can know how to advocate for themselves, or can have someone to advocate for themselves. Like, that's my parting shot in terms of this conversation.
My parting shot is, it's rather obvious that women are equal contributing members of society, regardless of how they what's that word? Present themselves, right? So just, can we get over the hump of ignoring or overlooking like obvious things, like, I don't know, equity in terms of, or equality in terms of pay, right? Because we fully understand that this job, as it's being done by two women, is currently being done by two men somewhere else. And therein lies the equality. We are both capable of doing the same thing. Instead of looking at someone's gender or sex as a determination of merit, can we look at something like capacity? Can we look at something like integrity? Can we look at, you know? And then I'd be willing now then, you know, to have a conversation about diverging pays from that arena. You know, if we say D versus skinny, D is more credible, D has more integrity, D has better outputs than Jenny, then I will pay D more than I will pay Jenny. That I can understand, right? As opposed to saying, you know what, Jenny...
And you see, that's a conversation you can back up. Because you can measure your output compared to mine. It's like, say, for instance, if I'm in a hiring position, I can then measure and say, okay, you see, the reason why Jenny's earning this and you're not is because Jenny does this and you don't. You see? But without that honesty, you're just left here literally unequal to your colleague based on gender alone. You know what I mean? And that's the thing,
based on a figure alone. It's just
it's a thing that boggles my mind.
And those two things are falsely equivocated. It's not, sex and gender do not equal money, like in any way, shape, or form. So like, you can't measure those two things out. So it's one of those things where I'm just like, at some point, because we keep touting things like evolution and so on and so forth, right? We should have evolved past the what's the word? And I'm looking for like such a richly vocabulary of a word. Like
we should have evolved past
because the word
iniquity.
It's
inequality. It's iniquity.
No, there's a word to describe it. It's not sophomoric. It is just. It is like foolish. But what's a nice? You know what? Comment down in the comments.
Yeah.
And give us a synonym for foolish.
Yeah.
Give us a synonym for incredulous. Right? Like what's the word? It's like
ridiculous.
It's just so unfathomably stupid that we continue to ignore the proof. Women and men are equal, just not in terms of biology. You know, and so once we toss out male, female in things like labor, in things like because I guess that's where it matters the most, right? Once we remove male and female in the from the labor force, then that conversation ceases to exist because then we'll have equalized people, and then now it's just a merit-based system. Yeah,
true.
And I think that's where I think we need to all go, and that's. It's about time we all break the bias. It's been time. Like, we're in 2022. Shame on us, guys. As just a human race, like, we've waited
to do better.
So long to just be better. Yeah.
And it's been years of women proving themselves, proving that we can do the same jobs, proving that we can
just exist.
Yeah, still exist in the same spaces as men.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please share with a friend. Share with your mom, your sister, your auntie, your cousin.
Even that
share
person
with everybody.
You don't like.
And let's break the bias together. And we can do it together because collective action is way, way, way more effective than one person advocating for themselves there, another one there. Like, we're stronger together always. So thank you for watching. This was the Same Difference podcast. See you next week.